People think powerful men lose control when bullets start flying. They're wrong. The most dangerous moment is when a man who never reacts suddenly goes quiet. Rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Grand Regent Hotel hard enough to blur Manhattan into streaks of gold and black outside the ballroom. Every crystal chandelier above me shimmered like expensive fire, while waiters in pressed white jackets moved through crowds worth more money than I could imagine. My silver tray felt heavier with every step. Maybe because I'd been awake for almost 20 hours. Maybe because my ribs still hurt every time I breathed too deeply. Or maybe because pretending to be okay was finally exhausting me more than the actual pain. "Claire, table 14 needs champagne," my manager hissed as he rushed past me without slowing down. And smile. These people donate more money in one night than you make in 5 years. I forced a smile anyway because tuition was due next week and smiles were cheaper than honesty. My black heels clicked against the marble floor as I crossed the ballroom carefully, balancing crystal flutes while conversations about stock markets, political campaigns, and Hampton's properties floated through the air around me. Wolf had a sound. Soft laughter. Expensive watches brushing against champagne glasses. Women speaking quietly because they never had to fight to be heard. I used to think rich people looked happier. Now I knew they just looked better rested. A sharp ache spread across my side when I reached for another tray. I flinched before I could stop myself. The movement pulled my sleeve back slightly, exposing the edge of a fading bruise near my wrist. I tugged the fabric down immediately and glanced around to make sure nobody noticed. Nobody ever did. That was the thing about Manhattan. People mastered the art of looking away. My phone buzzed inside my apron pocket. Ryan. Again. 5 missed calls already. 1 unread text. You better answer me this time. My stomach tightened instantly. I turned the phone face down without opening the message. Not now. Not here. Tonight, I just needed to survive another shift. The ballroom doors suddenly opened, and the energy inside the room changed so fast it felt physical. Conversations lowered. Shoulders straightened. Even the servers beside me slowed down instinctively. I looked up and saw him walking in surrounded by men in dark tailored suits. Damian Moretti. I knew the name the same way everyone in New York knew it. Quietly. Carefully. Like something you weren't supposed to say too loudly. He moved through the ballroom with terrifying calm, tall and sharply dressed in black, silver streaks catching faintly in his dark hair beneath the chandelier light. He wasn't the loudest man in the room. That was what made him frightening. Men like Damian never needed attention. Attention came to them automatically. His gray eyes swept across the ballroom once, cold and unreadable, before he continued toward the private VIP section near the terrace. I looked away immediately. Girls like me didn't exist in worlds like his. Another wave of dizziness hit me without warning. My vision blurred for half a second. I grabbed the edge of a nearby table discreetly, trying to steady myself before anyone noticed. Breathe. Just breathe. But my body had apparently decided it was done cooperating tonight. Heat rushed to my face. My knees weakened beneath me. The tray slipped slightly in my hands, crystal glasses rattling together loudly enough to turn a few heads nearby. Embarrassment hit me first, then panic. Then nothing felt steady anymore. The ballroom tilted sideways in slow motion. Someone gasped nearby as the tray slid from my fingers completely. Crystal shattered across the marble floor in an explosion of sound that echoed through the room. I remember hearing my manager curse under his breath. I remember trying to apologize. I remember falling. But I never hit the ground. Strong hands caught me just before everything went dark. The last thing I saw before losing consciousness was a black suit, a silver watch, and a pair of cold gray eyes staring directly at the bruises exposed beneath my sleeve. The first thing I heard was rain against glass. Soft. Expensive somehow. Not like the rattling sound against my apartment windows at home. This rain sounded distant, filtered through thick glass and 20 stories of Manhattan wealth. My eyelids felt heavy when I opened them. Warm light blurred above me. Gold walls. A leather couch beneath my body. For one terrifying second, I forgot where I was completely. Then memory slammed back into me all at once. The gala. The broken glasses. Falling. Him. I sat up too quickly, and pain shot through my ribs hard enough to steal my breath. Easy. The voice came from somewhere to my left. Low. Calm. Controlled. I froze immediately. Damian Moretti stood near the massive windows overlooking the city, one hand resting inside his pocket while the other held a crystal glass filled with amber liquid. Even from across the room, he looked intimidating in that perfectly tailored black suit, like he belonged to another species entirely. The storm outside painted silver reflections across his sharp features. "You fainted," he said quietly. "A doctor checked you." My pulse started racing. "I need to get back downstairs." My voice sounded rough and embarrassed. "I broke those glasses. My manager is probably furious." Damien watched me for a long moment without answering. Those gray eyes were colder up close somehow. Observant. Calculating. The kind of eyes that notice things people try to hide. Especially weakness. "You are worried about glasses?" he finally asked. Heat rushed into my face. I cannot lose this job. I pushed myself upright carefully, ignoring the ache spreading through my side. "Thank you for helping me, but I should leave." I reached for my apron folded neatly beside the couch. My sleeve shifted the moment I grabbed it. I saw his expression change instantly. Not dramatic. Not loud. Somehow worse. Silence settled heavily inside the room while his eyes locked onto the bruises along my wrist and forearm, purple fading into yellow beneath my pale skin. My stomach dropped. I jerked the sleeve down immediately. Too late. The air changed. Completely. Damien set his glass down slowly on the marble counter beside him. Every movement remained controlled, but something underneath that control suddenly felt dangerous. "Who did that to you?" The question was quiet enough that another person might have mistaken it for concern. I heard something else inside it. Something sharp. I forced out a laugh that sounded painfully fake even to me. "I slipped carrying boxes last week." His expression did not move. "You are lying." My heartbeat stumbled. "Excuse me." He crossed the room then, slow and steady, expensive shoes silent against the dark hardwood floor. I suddenly understood why people lowered their voices around him. Damien Moretti carried stillness the way other men carried weapons. "Those marks are not from falling," he said. "Someone put their hands on you." I swallowed hard. "It is none of your business." For the first time since I met him, emotion flickered openly across his face. Anger. Cold and immediate. Not explosive. Worse. Controlled anger looked terrifying on a man like Damien. He stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I caught the scent of cedarwood and rain on his jacket. "You collapsed from exhaustion," he said quietly. "You have bruises old enough to fade and new enough to still hurt. And when your phone kept vibrating downstairs, you looked afraid to read it." Shame burned through me so fast, it almost hurt more than the bruises themselves. "You do not know anything about me." His jaw tightened slightly. "Then tell me I am wrong." I opened my mouth immediately. Nothing came out, because I could still hear Ryan shouting in our apartment 3 nights ago. Could still feel myself flinching every time my phone buzzed tonight. Damien noticed my silence. Of course he did. Men like him noticed everything. The room stayed quiet except for distant thunder rolling across Manhattan outside. Then Damien looked down toward my wrist again. His voice became dangerously soft. "Whoever touched you like that," he said slowly, "made a very serious mistake." People talk about fear like it arrives all at once. It does not. Real fear settles into your life slowly, until one day you realize your entire body has learned how to survive before your mind even catches up. I stared at Damien Moretti and understood immediately that telling the truth would change everything. Men like him did not forget things. They did not hear information and let it go. Whatever happened after this moment would stay happened. "I should go home," I said quietly. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Damien did not move away from me. "Answer the question first." Thunder rolled softly outside the windows behind him, shaking silver reflections across the room. Manhattan glittered below us 20 floors down, cold and beautiful, and completely unaware that my entire life suddenly felt one breath away from collapsing. I forced myself to meet his eyes. Nobody did anything to me. The lie came automatically now. Smooth. Practiced. I bruise easily. His expression stayed unreadable for 3 long seconds. Then he nodded once like he had expected the answer already. Somehow that made me more nervous. "What is his name?" My pulse jumped hard enough to hurt. "I do not know what you are talking about." "The man calling your phone every 7 minutes." His voice remained calm. "The one you are afraid of disappointing." Heat rushed into my face again. I hated how easily he noticed things. "You have no right to ask me personal questions." "You collapsed in my arms 5 minutes ago," he said quietly. "That makes it personal." I grabbed my apron from the couch harder than necessary, just to keep my hands busy. Thank you for helping me tonight, Mr. Moretti, but my life is not your concern. Damien looked at me for a moment before reaching into his pocket and pulling out my phone. I had not even realized he had it. The screen lit up immediately. Ryan calling. Again. Damien glanced down once before handing it toward me. Answer it. My stomach tightened instantly. No, why not? Because I do not want to. Another lie. Smaller this time. Worse somehow. Damien saw through that one too. Of course he did. The phone finally stopped buzzing in my shaking hand. Silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before another message appeared across the screen. Where are you? I told you not to ignore me. Damien read the fear on my face before I could hide it. His jaw tightened slightly. Claire. The way he said my name sounded careful now. Controlled. Dangerous in an entirely different way. Does he hurt you? I looked away immediately toward the rain streaking the windows. I could not answer that question honestly, because hearing it out loud made everything feel real. Bruises were manageable when nobody acknowledged them. Fear became survivable if you pretended it was stress. But hearing someone else say it directly cracked something open inside me that I had spent months trying to keep sealed shut. You do not understand, I whispered finally. Then help me understand. I laughed softly at that. Bitter. Exhausted. Men like you do not understand girls like me. His eyes narrowed slightly. Men like me. I regretted the words immediately. Rich. Powerful. Untouchable. I swallowed hard. You probably think people can just leave bad situations whenever they want. Damien stayed silent. I continued before I could stop myself. Real life does not work like that. Rent exists. Bills exist. Tuition exists. Some people do not have bodyguards and penthouses to hide inside. The room grew very still after that. Damien looked almost expressionless again, but something colder settled behind his eyes. Not directed at me. Somewhere else. Somewhere far more dangerous. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message from Ryan. If you are ignoring me because of another guy, do not bother coming home. Damien read enough of my expression to understand the message without seeing the screen. Slowly, very carefully, he reached toward the coffee table and picked up his glass again. The crystal cracked quietly beneath the pressure of his hand. Not enough to shatter. Just enough for me to hear it. Go home if you want, he said softly. But give me his name first. The worst part about living in fear is how normal it starts to feel after a while. By the time I left the Grand Regent Hotel, my hands had finally stopped shaking, but my chest still felt tight every time I remembered the look in Damien Moretti's eyes when he asked for Ryan's name. He had not looked curious. He had looked patient, like a man willing to wait as long as necessary for the truth. Rain soaked Manhattan in silver by the time I stepped onto the sidewalk outside the hotel. Black SUVs lined the curb beneath glowing streetlights while drivers held umbrellas over wealthy guests disappearing into the night. I wrapped my thin coat tighter around myself and hurried toward the subway entrance before anyone from the gala could stop me. Especially him. Miss Bennett. I froze instantly. One of Damien's men stood several feet away near the curb, tall and broad-shouldered in a charcoal suit darkened by rain. He did not move closer. Somehow that made him more intimidating. Mr. Moretti asked me to drive you home. No, the answer came too fast. The man barely reacted. It is raining. I take the subway. Tonight you will not. My pulse quickened immediately. I did not ask for protection. No, he said calmly. Mr. Moretti did. I stared at him for a second before letting out a tired laugh. Of course Damien Moretti would say something like that. Like my opinion existed somewhere below his decision. Tell your boss I can get home alone. The man reached into his jacket slowly enough not to alarm me and handed me a business card instead. Thick black cardstock. Silver lettering. Damien Moretti. A private number written neatly across the back. Keep it anyway, he said. In case you need help. I almost handed it back. Almost. Instead I slipped it into my coat pocket without answering and walked straight into the subway station before he could say anything else. The train ride downtown felt endless. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach tightened harder. Ryan had called 14 times now. 14. The messages kept getting worse too. Where are you? Who are you with? You think ignoring me is funny? By the time I climbed the stairs outside my apartment building in Queens, it was almost 1 in the morning and rainwater had soaked through my shoes completely. The hallway smelled like old pipes and cheap takeout the way it always did. Home. Or something close enough to it. I unlocked the apartment quietly and stepped inside. The television glowed blue across the dark living room. Ryan sat on the couch waiting for me. My heartbeat stumbled instantly. Finally, he said flatly. I forced myself to stay calm. My shift ran late. His eyes moved slowly over my face. My clothes. The damp coat. Then he stood up. Ryan looked handsome in the kind of way that fooled people easily. Blonde hair. Clean smile. Expensive cologne. Strangers never saw the version of him that lived behind closed doors. Your phone died? He asked. I was working. He stepped closer. Funny. Because I called the restaurant. My chest tightened immediately. They said you left an hour ago. Silence stretched between us. I could hear rain tapping softly against the apartment windows behind him. Ryan noticed the tension in my face instantly. He always did. Who were you with? I looked away first. Mistake. His expression hardened immediately. Claire. Nobody. Another lie. Another survival instinct. Ryan exhaled slowly through his nose before reaching toward my wrist. I flinched before he even touched me. The movement changed everything. I saw it happen in real time. The way his face darkened slightly. The way disappointment twisted instantly into suspicion. You are acting strange. I am tired. No, his voice stayed calm. Too calm. You are hiding something. My phone buzzed suddenly inside my coat pocket. Ryan's eyes locked onto it immediately. Mine did too. Unknown number. But somehow I already knew who it was. Ryan held his hand out toward me. Answer it. My pulse started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Slowly, I pulled the phone out and stared at the screen. One unread message appeared beneath the missed call. Did you get home safely? I looked at those 6 words while fear and something far more dangerous tangled together tightly inside my chest. Because for the first time in months, somebody had asked me that question and actually meant it. Secrets become dangerous the moment somebody powerful notices them. Before Damian Moretti, my life had been small enough to survive quietly. Work, bills, school, fear, repeat. But now there was a man in Manhattan asking questions nobody else ever asked, and somehow that terrified me almost as much as Ryan standing 3 feet away staring at the phone in my hand. Who is it? Ryan asked. I swallowed hard and locked the screen before answering. Wrong number. He did not believe me. I could see it immediately in the way his shoulders stiffened. Then why do you look nervous? Because Damian Moretti had texted me like a man who expected an answer. Because part of me wanted to respond. Because nobody had checked whether I got home safely in a very long time. I am tired, I repeated quietly. Ryan stared at me another few seconds before finally stepping back toward the couch. The tension in the apartment loosened slightly, but not enough for me to breathe normally again. It never really did anymore. You should have called me, he said. I was worried. There it was. The version of Ryan everyone else loved. Calm voice. Concerned expression. Protective boyfriend. Sometimes I almost hated that version more because it made me question my own memories. Made me wonder if maybe I really was overreacting. Maybe every relationship became difficult eventually. Maybe fear was normal. My phone was buried in my apron. I lied softly. He studied my face one last time before nodding toward the kitchen. I brought dinner home. I glanced toward the takeout containers on the counter and forced myself to smile slightly. Thank you. Ryan relaxed almost instantly after that. Like my gratitude settled something inside him. Go shower, he said. You look exhausted. I disappeared into the bathroom before he could read my expression again. The second the door locked behind me, I leaned against it and closed my eyes hard. My hands were shaking. I hated that they were shaking. Steam filled the bathroom mirror while hot water ran over my skin 10 minutes later, but it did nothing to ease the tightness inside my chest. My mind kept replaying Damian's voice over and over again. Does he hurt you? Nobody had ever asked me that directly before. Not my coworkers. Not classmates. Not neighbors hearing arguments through thin apartment walls. People noticed bruises all the time. They just preferred explanations that made them comfortable. I stepped out of the shower and wrapped myself in a towel before wiping steam from the mirror. Purple fingerprints still shadowed my wrist faintly beneath the bathroom light. I stared at them silently. Then my phone buzzed again on the sink counter. Unknown number. My pulse jumped immediately. I should not answer this. I knew that. Men like Damian Moretti did not drift casually into ordinary lives. They consumed space inside them. Slowly. Completely. But my fingers still picked up the phone anyway. Another message appeared. You did not answer. I typed back before I could stop myself. I am home. 3 dots appeared instantly. Good. Relief spread through my chest so suddenly it almost embarrassed me. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Then another message came. Is he there? My breath caught. Footsteps moved outside the bathroom door at the exact same moment. Claire. Ryan's voice sounded muffled through the wood. Who are you talking to? Panic slammed into me instantly. I locked the phone and shoved it face down beside the sink, just as the door handle rattled lightly. Nobody, I answered too quickly. Silence. Then Ryan laughed softly from outside the door. You have been acting strange ever since you got home. I stared at the locked door while water dripped slowly from my hair onto the tile floor. My pulse pounded harder when my phone buzzed again beside the sink. Once, twice, 3 times. Ryan heard it too. Complete silence settled outside the bathroom door. Then his voice came again, quieter this time. Open the door, Claire. Fear curled tightly in my stomach. Not because of Ryan. Not entirely. But because for the first time in months, another man had entered my life who scared me for completely different reasons. Ryan made me afraid of surviving tomorrow. Damian Moretti made me afraid of wanting something better. Fear changes the way you hear ordinary sounds. A phone buzzing on a bathroom counter starts sounding like a threat. Footsteps outside a locked door feel heavier than they should. Even your own breathing becomes suspicious when somebody is angry enough to notice it. I stared at the bathroom door while Ryan waited outside in silence. My phone buzzed again beside the sink. Unknown number. My pulse would not slow down. Claire. Ryan's voice stayed calm, but I knew better now than to trust calm. Open the door. I swallowed hard before unlocking it carefully. Ryan stood in the hallway wearing gray sweatpants and a black t-shirt, blonde hair still damp from his shower earlier. To anyone else, he looked normal. Handsome even. But his eyes went immediately to the phone in my hand. Who keeps texting you? Nobody important. He held his hand out toward me. Let me see it. My stomach tightened instantly. Ryan, please. That one word changed the atmosphere between us immediately. Please meant fear. Fear made him suspicious. You are hiding something. I am not. Another lie. My entire life felt built from them lately. Ryan stepped inside the bathroom slowly, shutting the door behind him. The small room instantly felt too warm. Too crowded. You came home acting distant, he said quietly. Now some guy is blowing up your phone after midnight. I shook my head quickly. It is nothing like that. Then prove it. My grip tightened around the phone automatically. Mistake. Ryan noticed. Of course he noticed. Claire. His voice sharpened slightly. Give me the phone. My chest tightened hard enough to hurt. Somewhere beneath the fear, exhaustion finally started breaking through too. I was tired of apologizing for existing. Tired of managing somebody else's moods every second of every day. Tired of feeling guilty for breathing wrong. No, the word slipped out before I could stop it. Silence crashed into the room instantly. Ryan stared at me like he had never heard me say no before. Maybe he had not. Excuse me. My heart pounded painfully. It is my phone. His jaw tightened immediately. Who is he? Nobody. You are lying. His voice stayed controlled, but tension rolled off him now in waves. Did you meet somebody tonight? No. Then why are you protecting him? I opened my mouth, closed it again, because I did not even know what I was protecting. Damian Moretti was a stranger, a dangerous one, but somehow his messages felt safer than standing here in my own apartment. Ryan suddenly reached toward my wrist, and I flinched hard before he even touched me. Everything stopped after that. His hand froze halfway between us. My breathing, his expression, the entire room, because there was no explaining that reaction away anymore. Not after tonight. Ryan stared at me with something almost wounded crossing his face. You are scared of me. I looked away immediately. Another mistake. His breathing changed. Claire. His voice sounded rougher now. Look at me. My eyes burned suddenly. Not from pain. From exhaustion. From spending so many months pretending things were normal that I almost forgot what normal actually looked like. I do look at you, I whispered. Every single day, I look at you and try to figure out which version is coming home. Ryan stepped back slightly like the words physically hit him. Silence swallowed the bathroom again except for rain tapping softly against the apartment windows somewhere beyond the hallway. Then my phone buzzed one final time in my shaking hand. Ryan's eyes dropped toward the screen automatically. So did mine. One new message. If you feel unsafe, reply with one word. That was all it said. No threats. No pressure. Just one sentence from a man dangerous enough that people lowered their voices when they spoke his name. Ryan read the message over my shoulder before I could lock the screen. The color drained from his face instantly. Not anger. Something else. Recognition. Fear. Real fear. Slowly, Ryan looked back up at me. Who? He asked quietly. Is Damian Moretti? There are moments that split your life into before and after. Sometimes they happen loudly. Sometimes they happen in complete silence inside a tiny bathroom, while one man suddenly realizes another man is far more dangerous than he is. Ryan stared at the name on my phone like it physically hurt to read it. Who is Damian Moretti? He repeated quietly. I swallowed hard. I met him tonight at work. At the gala? I nodded slowly. Ryan stepped back from me immediately, running one hand through his blonde hair while tension flooded his face. For the first time since I had known him, he looked uncertain. Truly uncertain. Why is he texting you? I fainted at work, I said softly. He helped me. Ryan laughed once under his breath, but there was no humor in it. Men like Damian Moretti do not help people. My stomach tightened again. You know who he is? He looked at me like I had asked something ridiculous. Everybody knows who he is. Rain rolled softly against the apartment windows while silence stretched between us. Ryan looked suddenly distracted now, his earlier anger replaced by something colder. Calculation, maybe. Did you tell him anything? No, that part was true. Ryan exhaled slowly. Good. I stared at him carefully. Why? Because you do not want somebody like that interested in you, Claire. The words should have comforted me. Instead, they made my chest tighten harder. Because Ryan sounded afraid. And somehow seeing fear on him unsettled me more than his anger ever had. My phone buzzed again in my hand. Ryan's eyes dropped immediately toward the screen before I turned it away this time. Do not answer him, he said quickly. Ryan, I am serious. He stepped closer again, lowering his voice. You have no idea what kind of people those men are. I almost laughed at the irony of that. No idea what kind of people those men are. As if I had not spent the last year learning exactly what fear looked like inside my own apartment. I am going to bed, I whispered instead. Ryan watched me carefully for another second before finally nodding. Okay. Too easy. That worried me instantly. Ryan usually pushed harder when he felt threatened. But now he looked distracted in a completely different way, like his mind had already moved somewhere else. Lock the door behind you, he said quietly as he walked back toward the living room. And Claire. I paused near the bedroom doorway. Stay away from Damian Moretti. I closed the bedroom door behind me without answering. My hands shook while I leaned against it, listening to the muted sound of the television in the other room. Sleep felt impossible now. The apartment suddenly seemed smaller than ever before, like the walls themselves knew something had changed tonight. I sat slowly on the edge of the bed and unlocked my phone again. 3 unread messages waited for me. Are you safe? Another one appeared while I stared at the screen. Claire. Just my name. Nothing else. I do not know why that affected me more than the others. Maybe because it sounded less like control and more like concern. Slowly, before I could overthink it, I typed back. He knows your name now. The reply came instantly. I know. My pulse quickened. You are not worried? 3 dots appeared almost immediately. No. Silence filled the room while I stared at that single word. No arrogance. No explanation. Just certainty. Another message appeared beneath it. Lock your bedroom door tonight anyway. Cold spread through my chest instantly. I looked toward the bedroom door automatically, even though it was already locked. Why? The typing bubble appeared. Disappeared. Returned again. Finally, one last message came through. Because men become unpredictable when they realize they are losing control. I stared at the screen while rain hammered harder against the windows outside. Then something unexpected happened in the living room. Complete silence. The television turned off. My breathing slowed instinctively as footsteps crossed the apartment floor outside my bedroom. One step, then another, then nothing. I sat frozen on the edge of the bed staring at the locked door while my phone lit up one final time in my hand. Do not open that door for anyone except me. The human body knows when danger is close long before the mind accepts it. I knew sometime around 2 in the morning while I sat fully dressed on the edge of my bed staring at the locked door. Rain hammered Queens hard enough to rattle the apartment windows while silence stretched through the hallway outside. Ryan had stopped moving 20 minutes ago. That somehow scared me more. My phone remained warm in my hands. Do not open that door for anyone except me. I reread the message again and again while my pulse refused to settle. This was insane. Completely insane. I had known Damian Moretti for less than 12 hours. He was dangerous, powerful, probably connected to things I did not even want to imagine. And somehow part of me trusted him more than the man sleeping 10 feet away in the living room. A floorboard creaked outside my bedroom. My breathing stopped instantly. Slow footsteps crossed the hallway again. Not loud. Careful. I stared at the doorknob while fear crawled slowly up my spine. Then came the soft sound of fingers brushing against the handle. Once. Twice. My stomach twisted painfully. Claire. Ryan's voice sounded muffled through the door. Calm. Too calm. Are you awake? I stayed completely still. I know you are awake. Another pause. Open the door. My phone buzzed softly in my hand before I could answer. One new message. Do not speak. Cold spread through my chest immediately. How did he know? Another text appeared almost instantly afterward. The lights across the hall turned on 3 minutes ago. Someone is watching your door. I looked toward the apartment window automatically even though the blinds were closed. My heartbeat started pounding harder. Ryan tried the handle again gently. Claire, I just want to talk. Fear tightened painfully in my throat because part of me knew that voice. It was the same soft voice he used right before everything became unpredictable. Please open the door. Another buzz in my hand. Is the door locked? I typed back quickly with shaking fingers. Yes. Good. The footsteps outside suddenly stopped moving. Silence crashed into the apartment again, so heavily I could hear rainwater sliding down the windows outside. Then Ryan's voice came one last time through the door. Quieter now. Whoever that man is, he cannot protect you from me forever. My chest tightened hard enough to hurt. A second later, footsteps moved away down the hallway. The living room television flickered back on. Sound returned to the apartment like nothing happened at all. I sat frozen on the bed for several more minutes before finally breathing again. My hands shook while I typed another message. How do you know what is happening here? 3 dots appeared immediately. Because I have men outside your building. My stomach dropped. What? I stood up too quickly and pulled the blinds apart slightly. A black SUV sat across the street beneath the rain-soaked glow of a street lamp. 2 men in dark suits stood near the entrance of my building under umbrellas. Watching. Waiting. My pulse stumbled. You had people following me? The reply came instantly. Protecting you. Anger flashed through me, so suddenly it cut straight through the fear. I typed back harder this time. You cannot control my life. Several seconds passed before his response came through. I am trying to keep you alive long enough for you to take your life back yourself. I stared at those words while thunder rolled across the city outside. Something inside my chest shifted painfully. Nobody had ever spoken to me like that before. Not like I was worth protecting without expecting ownership in return. Another message appeared slowly afterward. Claire, if he touches that door again tonight, my men are coming upstairs. Fear and relief tangled together so tightly inside me, I could not separate them anymore. I looked once more toward the black SUV parked outside in the rain, toward the men watching my building like silent shadows. Then my phone lit up one final time in my trembling hand. Sleep if you can. I will still be here when the sun comes up. Morning light has a cruel way of exposing truths people survive better in darkness. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard footsteps outside my bedroom door again, or saw Ryan staring at Damian Moretti's name on my phone with fear hiding behind his anger. By 7 in the morning, rain still covered Queens in cold gray mist while exhaustion sat heavy behind my eyes. I unlocked my bedroom door carefully and stepped into the apartment. The television was off. The kitchen light glowed softly above the counter where Ryan stood pouring coffee into 2 mugs like nothing had happened. He looked up immediately when he saw me. Morning. I nodded quietly, studying him carefully. Sometimes mornings after bad nights felt the most confusing. Ryan looked normal again. Calm. Composed. The version strangers trusted instantly. I made coffee, he said. Thanks. My voice sounded distant even to me. I moved carefully into the kitchen while tension coiled silently beneath every movement between us. Ryan slid 1 mug toward me before leaning back against the counter. I overreacted last night. I stared down at the coffee without answering. Claire. His voice softened. I just do not like other men texting you in the middle of the night. He was checking if I was safe. The words escaped before I could stop them. Ryan's jaw tightened immediately. Exactly. Silence stretched again. I wrapped both hands around the warm mug just to stop them from shaking. Ryan watched me carefully for another second before speaking again. You should stop talking to him. I barely know him. That is not the point. He stepped closer slowly. Men like Damian Moretti do not notice women like you unless they want something. The words should have hurt. Instead, they made something inside me harden quietly. Women like you. Tired girls from Queens working double shifts and hiding bruises under long sleeves. Girls nobody protected until somebody dangerous decided they belonged to him instead. I looked up at Ryan for the first time that morning and realized something terrifying. I was no longer afraid of disappointing him. Maybe he just noticed, I said softly. Ryan went still. What is that supposed to mean? My pulse quickened, but this time I forced myself not to look away. It means he saw something was wrong immediately. Ryan laughed once under his breath, sharp and humorless. You think that man cares about you? I think he asked if I was safe. Silence crashed heavily between us after that. Ryan's expression darkened slowly, but underneath the anger now lived something else too. Insecurity. Real insecurity. Because for the first time since we met, somebody else had stepped into my life who saw through him completely. My phone buzzed softly against the kitchen counter before either of us could speak again. Ryan's eyes locked onto it instantly. So did mine. One new message. Look outside. Confusion flickered through me. Slowly, I walked toward the apartment window and pulled the blinds apart slightly. My breath caught immediately. A black car sat parked across the street beneath the pale morning rain. Not unusual in Queens. Except Damian Moretti leaned casually against the passenger side wearing a black overcoat, one hand inside his pocket while the other held an umbrella against the rain. Even from half a block away, he looked completely composed. Controlled. Like a man standing exactly where he intended to be. My heartbeat stumbled painfully. Ryan moved beside me and saw him too. The color drained from his face instantly. Damian lifted his eyes toward our apartment window at that exact moment. Straight toward me. Not Ryan. Me. Then he raised one gloved hand slightly and motioned once toward the building entrance. Come downstairs. Ryan stepped back from the window immediately. No, his voice sounded tight now. You are not going near him. But something inside me had already changed during the night. Maybe because Damian Moretti had guarded my apartment without asking for anything in return. Maybe because for the first time in years, somebody looked at my fear and treated it like something unacceptable instead of inconvenient. I stared down at the man waiting silently in the rain below and realized my entire life had divided into two versions now. The girl I had been before last night, and the girl standing at the window while one dangerous man waited patiently outside to offer her a way out.